I cannot for the life of me understand their reasoning behind this. It seems to me to be some element of corruption here.
Bitcoin bull and maximalist Max Keiser gives his Bitcoin prediction in this latest interview. Max has been one of the strongest proponents for Bitcoin, even amidst the largest cryptocurrency struggling to gain bullish momentum. With crypto markets in a state of uncertainty, it's no surprise that Max Keiser would be an avid defender of Bitcoin, even going as far as competing with Michael Saylor on who can grab as much Bitcoin before the next adoption phase. He also believes that as banks and institutions start mining Bitcoin as a strategic reserve, they'll be the official custodians and create a new infrastructure. Let's listen to Max as he gives his prediction for Bitcoin and why he believes the power is shifting from the fiat money world to the Bitcoin world.
So in the US, which has the US dollar and it has a much different culture, and the financial markets are in a much different place, this is a bigger problem to get through to people who are bombarded with so many things happening in the financial space and the way that that's changing. I look at how, for example, gambling has become legalized with platforms now that we didn't really have even a few years ago. But if you look around the world, in places like El Salvador, the global South, places like Africa, the need for Bitcoin is so great that the learning curve is very fast. They just get it. There's a need for it. And that's where you're going to see the growth pump. Bitcoin is really very much going to be the global South making a move on the global North. You're going to see the changing of the guard. The central banks, the Federal Reserve Bank and the Bank of England, European Central Bank, are going to be usurped. They're going to be overtaken by this Bitcoin revolution. And it's going to come from these other countries. It's not going to be led by the United States. It's unconscionable that Gary Gensler and the SEC would allow this to keep going without having a spot ETF in the marketplace, by allowing things like a futures Bitcoin ETF to exist. And the futures-based ETF products are notoriously horrible. They almost never work, and they're not suitable for retail. They're not even suitable for institutions. They're not suitable for anybody, and yet somehow these things have gotten into the marketplace. Other countries have spot ETFs. Their argument that there's no good price discovery in Bitcoin is fallacious. It's false and easily disproved. And so again, when it comes to the SEC, it's really hard to understand who they're working for. Are they working for the open and transparent markets on behalf of investors, or is there some other agenda going on? I cannot for the life of me understand their reasoning behind this. It seems to me to be some element of corruption here going on. Obviously, a lot of people don't want Bitcoin to succeed because it challenges them and it challenges the banking system. I mean, is that what's going on? Is there a conflict of interest?
Keiser goes on to say that corporations are pushing for greater Bitcoin exposure on their balance sheets, and that it will lead to an inevitable domination of the financial world. Over the past 12 years, Keiser has seen the rejection of the innovation of money, and as one of the early adopters of Bitcoin, he talks about the difficulty for people to change their mind about how they've been taught money.
Because it makes no sense. I'm an expert in this area, having invented a virtual currency in 1996, a patented virtual currency in market making and securities. I mean, I am one of the foremost experts in this in the world. And I've looked at Gary Gensler's reasoning on this, and it doesn't add up. And in conjunction with the other decisions he's made, as we've said, failing to enforce some of these obvious scams. I mean, I really question this guy's integrity. I really do, Bob. People always, of course, ask me and ask you and ask others for price predictions. And it's an incredibly volatile asset. So it really is incredibly difficult to make a price prediction other than to say that what I've been saying for 11 years, I'll tell you the direction of Bitcoin. It's up. If you hold it for maybe 3.5 years, anyone who's held it for 3.5 years or 4 years is in the black, right? So if you've got a time frame which is not a long time frame, 3.5, 4 years, you're going to be in the black. But I think that would be the main difference, is that also, in this environment, when I was at the Bitcoin Miami 22, the conference, the difference between that conference and let's say a conference from 10 years ago was the quality of the suits, right? So the people on stage are wearing, $3,000 suits. Back 11 years ago, 10 years ago, people would show up in torn t-shirts and there were coders and, rarely came out of their basement. But it's the same kind of struggle to come to terms with this emerging asset class. And in a lot of ways, it's the same. You just have a higher grade of speculator. You have, of course, the amount of money that's been flooding the system has increased every year for many years now. I mean, we got to the central banks have decided within the last 6 months to raise rates and really put an end to a 40-year bull market in the bond market. So on the macro side, this is the first time Bitcoin has faced a rising interest rate environment, which causes on the macro side a huge shift in the funds. You see, for example, something like the Russian ruble is the strongest performing currency in the world in 2022 because it's commodity based. I think starting in February with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we saw the end of a 40-year bull market in bonds and financialization and the beginning of a secular inflationary move in global markets that'll be tied to commodities. Commodities were not a big factor for 40 years. It was financialization, interest rates, extend and pretend, just create more bonds, lower, the coupon rate, extend the maturity. That's the way the world worked for 40 years. Now we're in a new world where suddenly the price of stuff like energy and food, it cannot be hidden anymore. It's actually hitting people's bottom line, and that's not going to change anytime soon. That's a secular shift in the inflation in the economy, in the globe, that's going to be with us for years, not a few months. And so that's something that is new for Bitcoin. And ultimately, it's going to do well in that environment because as people begin to understand that the financialized world is crumbling, having a, I often say Bitcoin is a risk-off investment. It's not a risk-on, it's risk-off. This is where you put your safe haven cash. It's hard to make that case with the volatility the way it is, but when you have something for all the other reasons, it's unconfiscatable, uncensorable, immutable, it makes sense. And it makes a lot of sense for 1 billion or 2 billion people out there that have been unbanked. That's where the growth's going to come. That's where the adoption's happening. So those are the changes, some differences, some similarities. Well, the adoption is definitely tied to understanding Bitcoin. And we know that the more you learn about Bitcoin, the more of a maximalist you become. Nobody who learns about Bitcoin fails to become a maximalist. Only people who really don't take the time to learn about it are left in the camp of a no-coiner or a skeptic.
Max says this is a make or break time for markets around the globe, as the crypto industry at large has too many working parts to be stopped. Although Keiser does have a slightly different opinion than Michael Saylor on government regulation, only time will tell. Keiser isn't surprised that Saylor holds a favorable position with the United States government because Saylor supports the dollar as the world reserve currency. Max doesn't believe government should be involved and says that Bitcoin's longevity is designed to survive without intervention from any governing body. What do you think about Max Keiser's interview? Comment down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is Library of Wealth. We'll see you in the next video.